Okay.
Cool. So we are recording. Thank you guys for joining. We got Bree over there in Argentina. Myself, I'm in Taiwan. And this is our 22nd ever knowledge drop. So thank you guys for joining. If you guys haven't ever been to a knowledge drop, just to cover the housekeeping stuff real quick. Basically, I just started recording this, so this will be recorded and saved in the archive for forever, potentially, hopefully. So you guys can feel free to watch this afterwards or share it with like a friend of yours who might be interested in geocaching, or just visit any of the other recordings that we have in there. We have 21 previous ones. And as we go, we're going to pass it over to Bree in a sec to run through her deck that she prepared for you guys. Feel free to use the question and answer box if you have questions that you don't want to forget for the last sort of like 10 minutes or so that we'll hopefully save for some questions. And then also feel free to use the chat box, which you guys are already all doing. So excellent. And make sure to go to all panelists and attendees if you want to chat to everybody that's on this call right now. I think that's about it. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to you, Bree. Thanks again for doing this. I remember when I found out that you worked for geocaching, I was like, I did that in Hawaii. That's so cool. So yeah. It's a cool, very unique sort of niche subject, which is what I'm all about for these knowledge drops. So yeah, thanks for doing this.
No problem. Happy to. Okay. Let's see. The screen sharing on.
You also got mad community support right now, which I love. All these Veritas, beautiful people in here.
Sorry, jumping ahead. Okay, so the knowledge drop. This is on geocaching, the world's largest treasure hunting game. And first, if anybody wants to throw into the chat, so you're on mute, if you've tried it out, maybe Travis can let us know.
I don't know if there's a way to come off mute, but you can just chat or type your questions and I'll sort of be your mouthpiece so I can ask you those questions on their behalf.
Great.
But yeah, you're asking if people have any experience with geocaching?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, get in the chat box and type away. As I mentioned, my experience is limited, but I had an ex-girlfriend who I was dating in Hawaii and she was into it. She had her own little like GPS thing, which I think maybe people more use the app now on the phone, but like back in the day, she had like her own thing.
Oh yeah. That's how.
Yeah.
The first time I went geocaching, I was actually with a GPS, and it's only been the past 5, 6, 7 years that we've had apps, and the game's been around for 17 years. So there's a long time where phones weren't the way you played.
Awesome. So Chrissy is saying that her first cache was with the John Lennon wall, so I'm guessing pretty soon, probably influenced by you, Bree. And then
or Barbara.
Or Barbara. Yeah. Barbara's a big cacher too. Forgot. Awesome.
All right. I'll just dive in.
Yeah, get it. Somebody else just wrote that they like heard people talking about it, and that's like something that that's like kind of why I thought this subject would be interesting. Is it's one of those things that gets like tossed about in conversation quite a bit. So interesting to know the whole story, which you're about to give us.
Yeah. Okay. So for anybody who doesn't know, geocaching, you may have heard. I'm doing this because you may have heard the word, but you don't know what it is. You might not know how it started or how to play. And I really wanted to talk about how geocaching is changing the world for the better too, because that's something that I firmly believe and am really excited about, like how this combination of technology and like the world has kind of come about. And why I'm dropping it. I actually work for Geocaching HQ and I've been there 3.5 years. I'd found a couple geocaches before joining back in 2005 with some friends, but didn't have my own GPS. And then I've had my own account and been caching since as soon as I knew I was interviewing there. So far, I've found over 1,940 caches. So I'm hoping in the next month or two to hit the 2,000 mark. And so far, 15 different countries I've logged souvenirs in. There's a few that I need to go back because I traveled there before I started geocaching. So geocaching, what is it? Rather than try to explain it, because there's a bunch of little nitty-gritty details, I'm just going to play this video, and it's about 1 minute long.
Geocaching is an any-day, anytime adventure that can take you to amazing and beautiful places, or even just to a place in your town that you've never been before. There are millions of geocaches worldwide. There are probably even some near you right now. Yes, you. To start finding them, just get out your phone or GPS. Go ahead. I'll wait. Then, create a free geocaching account and you're ready to go. The way it works is simple. Just choose the geocache you want to find, then navigate to its location. What you're looking for varies. Geocaches come in different sizes, shapes, and difficulties. Geocaching isn't always easy, so it's okay to get excited when you discover the cache. After finding it, sign the logbook. Trade knickknacks if you want, and log your find online. When you're done, just put the geocache back where you found it, and you're on to the next one. Hey, it's the other way. There's an adventure happening all the time, all around you. Become a part of it at geocaching.com.
Super cute.
Yeah.
That was a staff member, or who was in that?
Yeah, fun fact. So the woman was a former employee. She was there for a few years before I was, and the voice was also another employee named Derek. We always use staff members for like all of our internal videos. So I've actually been on one of our summer promotional videos a couple years ago. If you go to our website or like geocaching.com and you see any of the ads, or if you go to like shop geocaching and you're looking at swag or different clothing, like all the people featured are employees, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And so just continuing on with geocaching, what is it? The video showed a bunch of different types of geocaches because that's been a big question of like, you get told you're supposed to go look for something and you have really no idea what you're looking for. And the joke has always been like, we go find Tupperware in the woods, but it's really evolved since then. So here is just some of the different geocaches that you can purchase. People get really creative and make their own as well. There's a geocacher in the state of Washington in these states who turns like old phone booths into caches of different capacities, or there's somewhere you have to like use a straw to blow in to like get it to pop the drawer open. So they get really creative beyond just a container, but at the very least it's supposed to be a waterproof container with a logbook so you can write your username. And so now I'll dive into how it got started. So in May 2000, what's known as the Great Blue Switch controlling selective availability was pressed, and selective availability made it so civilian GPS units weren't as accurate, and it was about at the time to the size of like an American football field or 100 meters. And so when this was flipped, 24 different satellites who were controlling the power of GPS for like what we could connect to improved tenfold. And so the next day, an Oregon resident named Dave Ulmer, who was big into like tech and had his own GPS, wanted to go test the accuracy. And so he hid what he called a navigational target in the woods. It was really just a giant like bucket, and he put things in it, and he posted the idea online and called it the Great American GPS Stash Hunt. And his rules were simple: just take some stuff and leave some stuff. And so the picture there is of Dave Ulmer, and when we were placing the original stash plaque, the bucket is no longer there, but near that location there's a plaque, and then up the hill a little bit is a cache you can go find. And the bottom photo is me and one of my friends who went on a road trip about 2 years ago to find it. It's one of the three like major geocaches people seek out. The other one is at our office in Seattle, and then the Brazil 8 cache, which is a whole nother topic that if you're ever interested in, just ping me on Slack. And so following that, within the month of May, the first finder, Mike, began gathering coordinates and posting to his personal website. And then one of our co-founders, Jeremy Irish, had stumbled across his site later that year, and he wanted to build a hobby site for it. So he started on it. And they launched the site in September 2nd of 2000. And at the time, there were 75 known caches in the world. And Jeremy started this site with, and like the company, which is known as Groundspeak, with Brian and Elias, so we have the three co-founders. Elias now sits on the board, and Jeremy and Brian are still involved with the company. And now the part that I'm really excited about is just how geocaching is changing the world. And it's twofold. One, it's by improving the game board or the earth, and the other is by improving the lives of its community. And with the earth, we starting in 2002, we created a special type of event cache. So there's no container to go find, but you do still sign a logbook. But the idea is that it's an environmental initiative supported by the geocaching community. And so that can range from trash pickup to planting trees, to removing invasive species, to helping build trails, just kind of anything that'll help, you know, our parks and land management and keep the earth in like better standing. And so we've done over 11,000 Cyto events so far, and we do twice a year where like we have a big push where there's like usually a bunch of events, but they happen all the time. I've held a few myself, and it feels good when you see all the trash you collect, or that you've like cleared this huge space of land. So that's pretty cool. And then in terms of lives, I'm gonna share a story rather than like go into, I don't know, little tiny bullet point facts. But this is people I've actually met last year. The story starts with this family at an event held by some German geocachers in Brazil. And it happened in 2015. And the family traveled like quite a ways to go to this other city for this event, because it was they thought with the 20 attendees that it would be Brazil's largest event that year. And so they were pretty excited about that. And by the end of the event, there was 25 people like attended logs, and this family had developed a friendship between the couple of geocachers who had held it. So you can see a photo of them, and that's the daughter, the larger photo. And then the map down is just kind of showing geocaches in that area of Brazil. So there's not as many as other parts of the world. And fast forward to last year at Project Lukov Giga event, which had more than 5,000 attendees. I think it was closer to like 9,000 or 10,000. That same family went there to the world's most dense area for geocaches because the German like their new German friends had invited them. And it was really amazing to watch like the connection and the bond that they had, and that this family who hadn't like been to Europe before had traveled there to like see them and experience a different part of the world, and like did this because of geocaching. And watching them try to communicate was also really endearing too, because they're both like speaking English to each other, and it wasn't like full conversations, but you could tell that the bond was there. And I think we experienced that a lot with Remote Year, where you meet locals around the world. And so I think that's really cool. And you can see me in the front row of that. And then the other woman in the blue shirt is another employee who had traveled to this event with me. And so just to wrap up, the keys to success if you're going to go try it, which, I don't know, I think you should at least go see how it works. So if you hear about it, you at least know what people are talking about. And maybe you'll end up with some really cool stories yourself. But you use your eyes, your hands, what we call geosenses, just kind of where you feel like it might be hidden. Look for something that seems out of place, that seems a little odd. If there's a bunch of like bolts or bumps on a wall and like one looks a little different, maybe see if it moves. Geocaches are often disguised or like maybe hidden under something, or maybe up out of sight, so you reach up and you can feel it. Think like a detective. So if you were going to hide it, where do you think would be a good spot? Note that they should never be buried, so you don't have to dig anything up. And then I think sometimes, I mean, we all DNF them. Like that's a thing. So don't get discouraged. And that kind of leads into this. So for the most common ways to get derailed is you download the app and you get distracted. Maybe your friends are doing certain thing really cool and you feel like FOMO, and so you don't come back to it. But I don't know, I think there's FOMO around not going geocaching. If you can't find a cache or you think it's missing, you can log this, like it's known as a DNF or did not find. And the first couple of caches I found, I DNF'd, and that was like really, it was like, what is happening here? And I ended up getting buddies, like going out and together we like teamed it up and found it. And the other thing that derails people is like they've never seen a geocache, nobody's taking them out, and so they have no idea what they're supposed to be looking for, which is why I tried to show some containers. And you can do a bunch of searches too to see different ways people have hid them. But DNFing isn't something to be upset about. Like it's just part of the game, and you can dig in, you'll find it. And so for your homework, I'm challenging you to go download the app. You can follow the link there, or type it in, and it's available on Android and Apple. I dare you to go find a geocache. I'm sure there's one somewhere in the city that you're at. And then tag or DM me a photo of you, or like share a story with me via social media if you do, because I'd love to hear that. Anybody have any questions?
Why don't you pop out of, so Barbara has got her hand raised.
Okay.
She also asked in the chat box, did you find a geocache today?
Oh yeah, she's on me. My goal for this month is to block off my whole calendar for December, and I have a lot of open days because the weather in Seattle hasn't cooperated in the past. So no, Barbara, I haven't, but I'm gonna go do it after lunch. I've got one picked out.
I'm curious, like, what's your biggest day? If you found 1,900 something, that means you probably had days where you found more than one. So like, what's your personal record?
It was, I think, 810, and I did that last.
In one day?
And we went through highs and lows.
That's crazy. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was something that like I would do again, but not. I needed a good like year break in between, because it was an.
Yeah,
there's no
crazy.
fighting. There is hot in the sun and in 3 different cars for.
Wow. Kyle's asking, what's your favorite cache or the coolest cache you've ever found?
Oh, that's hard. Like, there's some that are just in amazing viewpoints. Like, one of my favorite memories was there's this earth cache, which earth cache is one where you're not actually finding. It's another one where you're not actually finding a container. You're going to a location, answering questions about the geology of the area. And so I was in Cinque Terre by myself last summer, and it had just rained, so the trains had stopped running, so you couldn't get to any of the other towns. And I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? And I had seen this one out on like the rocks, and it looked like it was through like into the harbor, which was where my hostel was, and then out, but there was just really small roads and stuff. And it was a place that felt more like tourists shouldn't go there. I mean, like there's no way for it to be off limits, but I just kind of followed it out and ended up this like outcropping of rocks. So I answered the cache and ended up meeting some people there. I heard somebody say that they were originally from Michigan, and I was like, oh, hey, because that's where I like went to high school and college, and started chatting with them, had a good time, and I ended up departing from them for a little while, but when I came back, they ended up being my hostel mates. So that's just one of like,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. We still have each other's numbers, and it was one of these moments that if it weren't for geocaching, I never would have like figured out I could walk out there. I mean, like I wouldn't have had those interactions. I wouldn't have seen the sunset like just over the water like that. So that was a pretty special day.
That's amazing. Christy's asking what happens if the logbook's full. And to add to that, I would be curious too, like, because it sounds like the whole like leave something, take something was kind of always part of the original idea. But what's like the coolest thing you've ever like left or taken? Because I think that part's interesting. Like you like have a bracelet or something, or like anything that you still.
Yeah, I do have. I have this little tiny like plastic dog that I got out of a cache because I was the second person to find it. This is one where like the first to find can be a big deal, and me and my at the time partner had like finished up brunch and we were getting a car to go somewhere, and I'd seen it popped up, and so I kind of looked at him and was like, can we do something geeky for me like for like a half an hour? He was like, what are we gonna go find? And so yeah, it's this little plastic toy dog that looks like almost like pixelated, and it's something that I didn't bring with me on a remote year, but I know exactly where it is in my apartment because I used to take it like just stick it in my backpack for work and like or have it on my desk kind of. And so that was just kind of like, and because I was really proud of the second to find because I tried really hard. I've had somebody pull out like $5 Starbucks gift card with a note that was like, go buy yourself a cup of coffee on me.
Treat yourself. Yeah.
So yeah. And some of them are too small, like fit things to trade. And if you're going to trade something, like it should be of equal or lesser value, or equal or greater value, sorry, not lesser. And yeah, but like if the log, going back to the original question, if the logbook's full, sometimes I'll like really small, like initial, like instead of writing my full username, which is Sassy Bandit, I'll write SP. If it's big enough, you can like, and you have another slip of paper, you can add it. Sometimes you can take the paper and then contact. And I do this more when I like cache in Seattle and I'm going to be there for a while. Like, hey, the log was full. Like, it couldn't fit another piece of paper in there. Like, I have it if you want it back. Or you can post a needs maintenance log and write like, hey, log is full. Can you come replace it? And then the cache owner will get that message.
I have another question, but everybody else feel free to keep adding questions in here. I was very curious about all this. What do you are doing for like work for the company, for like Geocache? Like what is your actual day-to-day sort of workload?
Yeah, so my title is a Frontend Web Developer. So I work on the website, don't touch the apps, although we do support them in a way. And so, I mean, it's a lot of coding and like talking about where we're going forward to and strategizing and deciding what kind of like work we're taking on in the next couple of weeks. I'm like the liaison between the designers and like the rest of my team. I'm currently, as of like this past month, switched to a new team. We have several different web development teams, like all working together, and we all take on different projects. So right now it's myself and mid-stack and a backend developer. And so I'm the one who, like, if we get a request in, I'm the one who decides, like, if it needs design work, and then I go and make sure the designers understand, like, what we're trying to build or what needs to be fixed or kind of the use cases. We go back and through, and they'll give me the comps, and then I implement. I do a lot of testing. Browsers are, and, like, phone devices, because they're, like, in today's age, I mean, there's Chrome, Firefox, Safari, like Internet Explorer. Then you have to think if they're running it on Mac or PC, like Android, Apple, Nokia phone, what kind. So like I do a lot of, my day is like broken down, like simply put, meetings, coding, and testing.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is you might have mentioned this, but what is the grand total of caches in the world right now? Or what's the best guess that you guys have?
There's over 3 million right now in 190 countries.
That's nuts.
That's There's so actually nuts. The space station as well, and in a sea trench off the coast of Australia. Both of them you need to have like special equipment, because we have a really quirky player who like paid for himself to go up to the International Space Station, and it's called Locker Number 9, so it's in Locker Number 9. And I think there's only like 2 people who have logged it or like found it.
Well, it's amazing. Well, like a cool feeling if you get to be the third person. Barbara was mentioning in the chat too, there's a couple in Machu Picchu. So if you guys go to Machu Picchu, it's a fun way to experience Machu Picchu. Yeah.
She owns one on Machu Picchu.
Another question. How many does the top cacher in the world have? What's like is there like a leaderboard?
So we do have a leaderboard that we released this year, and that goes off your friends list. I don't know the exact number offhand, but I know the top cacher has over 100,000 finds. He's been doing it for a long time, and sometimes it's like there's budgeting. Like, did he physically like open all and sign every logbook? Probably not. He was probably with a group somebody found when they wrote a team name, and kind of like we have guidelines. People play kind of their own way, and there's too many players. Like we have over 6 million active players generally at any given time. And so trying to get everybody to conform is, you can put in guidelines and kind of, people do their thing. But that's how many his account has.
I'll just keep asking questions because I'm curious. So now that you have so many players, like, and thinking back about like how it sort of started in this organic way, do you guys think that did you do anything along the way that you really felt was like a key part of like building the community and building like the number of players out? Or was it really just like, it was that fun, so it sort of like organically just grew like this?
There was a couple, I think, lucky hits. Like, I mean, because the site started off as like a hobby site with like, maybe this could go somewhere. And for a while it was like being built in a lot, like Elias's basement. He was one of the co-founders. It was a couple of years before they actually got an office, and like it was like one room, so it was open workspace before it was open workspace like was a trend. But there was like somebody, I think like the New York Times or a major like news article had kind of heard about it and ran a piece in the early 2000s about it, and that brought in more people. But it's really been like a cult following, like word of mouth. Like somebody tells somebody else, and it just kind of has grown organically. Pokemon Go is also another huge thing for us, which when it was released, we weren't sure how like the cards were going to fall on that one. And so we were kind of like watching it, we're like, is this going to be a good thing for us? Is this bad? Will it not like really affect us? But so many different outlets, like the Huffington Post, there was one that targets like parents, did articles on why geocaching was like the original Pokemon Go or what was better than Pokemon Go. And that was like our hugest like few days in terms of sign up that I don't like, I mean, just like our thing kind of went like this as we were going.
So yeah, what do they call that type of gaming? Where like it's interactive with the world? Like, do you know what I'm getting at? Like, do you consider geocaching that type of game where it's like it's in your phone, but it's also in the world?
Yeah, the dual. I should know this. I'm blanking on the term.
Yeah, like dual reality, or like like.
I mean, there's augmented reality.
Augmented reality. Yeah, that's maybe what it is. But I feel like geocaching is just real reality. But like,
yeah, it's just real reality. It gives people the point is like to go outside and like to use technology, but like first and foremost, like be outside, be in the world. Like you should only be looking at your phone so much. Kind of like your phone gets you there, and then you should put it away and have your adventure.
Totally. There's no more questions. Why don't you? Can you share that story about the lady that you were saying like wasn't leaving her house because she was out of shape, and then maybe let's end it with that. It's such a nice story. So.
Okay, yeah. There is a geocacher in the state of Washington who at one point was like morbidly obese, and her daughter, like the doctors are like, you have to do something, or like you're kind of like you don't have that many years left. And her daughter made her an account and went to her and was like, hey, like why don't you try it? Maybe it'll get you out of the house, maybe it'll get you moving. Like, and the first one she did, there happened to be one like in her neighborhood, and so she walked to it. By the time she got there, she was out of breath, but she found it, and she just like had this sense of like accomplishment. She's like, oh hell yes. And so it like encouraged her. Like a few days later, like the next day or whatever, she went and found another one, and she kept getting a little bit further and further from the house. And because she was finally moving, she was able to like lose weight and like gain mobility back. And now she goes on like hikes, like easy hikes for like nature walks, and she can do miles now. Like I've met her a couple years ago at a big like geocaching ape event where I was introduced, and she's just like, for her it changed her entire world, because she went from like hardly leaving the house to like being out and getting to explore and getting like into nature and kind of getting her life back.
Yeah, man, the power of geocaching. Very cool. Awesome. Well, thanks again for doing this, Bree. And I would encourage all you guys that are live here with us right now, or that maybe watch this in the future. Wait, what's Jen saying before I finish my last thought? I'm willing to try it again now. Thanks, Bree. Yeah, get out there. That's what I was gonna say. Because like for me, I think about this as like people have conversations all the time around like, skydiving or like certain things that people do. And like, you don't want to be the person in the skydiving conversation who's like, yeah, I've never been skydiving. Like, but someday maybe. Like, and so I feel like geocaching is the same thing. Like somebody typed earlier that, they heard about it at a hostel. But it's like way more fun if you have some experience, even if you've just found a few, because then you can at least talk about what it was like for you. And so, yeah, I would encourage everybody that's watching this or that will watch this in the future to like, maybe just make the point and make the goal to just go find even one cache just to see what that's like. And then the next time you're in that conversation, you can be like, I found one. Because yeah, it's a fun thing to get involved with. So thanks again, guys. Thank you, Bree. We'll shut it down, but we'll see you guys back. Actually, 2 weeks is like right around the Christmas holiday, so we're not going to do a knowledge drop in 2 weeks, but we'll be back a month from now with the next drop. Thanks, guys. Have a great day or night, depending on where you are. Ciao.